All right, today we're going to be looking at the problem in Nelson Nash's book, Becoming Your Own Banker, pages 17 and 18. It's where he breaks down how most people are focused on the wrong end of the problem. It says that the average person is spending 90 cents of every dollar going out the door. And even worse than that, when he breaks down the 20 cents for cars, the 30% for housing, the 40% for lifestyle, he says a real problem in it is that it's all finance. And 34 and a half cents, if you took all the money that they bring in, 34 and a half cents is being paid in interest alone. And he gives this great example of an airplane. He says, if they're spending 90% and they're saving 10, just add a zero. Let's assume they have an airplane that'll travel 100 miles an hour and they're flying due north from Birmingham to Chicago, but they're flying into this headwind, this 34 and a half cents, where you just move that decimal over to the right, and flying to this 345 mile an hour headwind. Imagine that. You're going 100 miles an hour into a 345 mile an hour headwind. What's happening? You're going backwards. You're heading toward Miami at 245 miles an hour. And he says the best thing you could do is just get on the ground. He's trying to tell you that you need to take an evaluation of what's really happening. He said, but that's not what people do. They get together at their offices or the gathering places, wherever it may be, and they spend all the time not speaking of how they can be more efficient with their dollars, but what they can do to try to earn a higher rate of return on their money. And it's absurd, but it happens. So I'm going to show you mathematically how this impacts you, and also kind of allude to what if we can make some different decisions. What if through some of the things, ideas that we're sharing on the podcast and through our videos and through the community, that you can learn ways to reduce some of those interest expenses, reduce maybe some of the taxes. And what would that do? How does that impact you and help you get closer to your financial destination? So let's dive into that. I want you to see the numbers that we're talking about. So the calculator I'm going to look at here is going to focus on what is our max potential. So I'm just using $150,000 income. This could be individual, it could be family. If you need to multiply it or do some division, you can do that. Let's look and see over time, what is our maximum potential? So if we're just earning $150,000 linear every single year, it'd add up to $5,250,000. But we know things are getting more expensive. The government's printing more money, that things are going to cost more because of that. So hopefully our income will, at a minimum, keep up with it. So if our income were to keep up with inflation, was earning 4%, so we're getting paid a little bit more, really not able to buy anything more because it's just the cost of gasoline is that much more expensive. The cost to go to the movies or whatever is that much more expensive. At the end of 35 years, what $150,000 of income is equal to $569,000, but we're buying the same amount of goods. So 569 seems like a lot of money today. You're like, man, that's awesome. But the reality is it's just the 150 that you're earning. Just everything else is caught up to it. So whenever we start to think about, all right, well, what is our max potential? We got our income, but our max potential would be if we could take 100% of our income and we could save it. And I want to start off, I'm going to use this low 5%. This is low in relationship to the world's numbers. The world thinks about, earning 8, 10, 12% in the market, which is a fallacy, which, by the way, if you go from 1900 to 2000, the Dow actually earned right at 5%. Warren Buffett did a study on it. He talked about it in one of his shareholder meetings. Most people think it says 10 to 12, but the reality is it's from 1900 to 2000, it was right at 5%. So let's say you could earn what the Dow earned over that 100-year period of time, 5% over this 35 years. How much money would you have? Your maximum potential would be $24 million, $24,726,340 to be exact. That's a lot of money. That's why on a podcast we say you are your greatest asset. You need to protect your asset. You need to focus on it. You need to find ways to grow it. By focusing on it, you can improve all these other areas. But we know that we're not a government worker. We don't live at home, and we don't have the potential to not pay taxes, to not have to pay for any debt, not to have to pay for $1 of a lifestyle. We're going to have all these things come out. So if we put in just 30% taxes, our $24.7 million goes down to 17.3. Well, why is it 17.3 when it said it only cost us 3.3 in taxes? You've probably heard us talk about compounding interest. It's a wonderful thing that when it's working for us, but when it's not working for us, that compounding, that interrupted growth has a large impact, and we call that opportunity cost. So when we don't have that dollar earning, it impacts us greatly as time goes on. Well, debt service. Nelson Ash, in that book, on pages 17 and 18, he said that 34.5 cents of every dollar is going out the door for interest alone. Think about that. Look at that. $3.8 million of cost had an $8.5 million depletion to our account. So now we had our last year's income of $569, but we only have 8.7. Still looks pretty good though. You take it. But we still have to pay for things. We got lifestyle. We have the things that we're going to enjoy. And now we're down to only $2.4 million in our accounts. We started with the maximum potential of 24.7. Now we have 2.4. You still probably think that looks good because you're relating it to your 150,000 you're making today. But when you think, well, 150 today is equivalent to 569 35 years from now, that means that I could live off this money about 4.5 years. That doesn't look so good. And we know this is even better than the real picture because most people are not saving 10%. So he gets in and he says, what do most people get to focusing on? They focus not on the 90 cents that's going out the door, but they focus on what the 10% is doing. I said, man, you're stupid. You're not taking advantage of all the mutual funds and the stock market appreciation. You should be earning a much higher return. All you got to do is take a little more risk. Risk, by the way, equals our potential or possibility for loss. Who in the world wants to increase that? I don't. But most people, that's what they focus on. They said, let's see if we can get a 50% increase in our return. So go from 5% to 7.5%. And instead of having 2.4 million, we got 3.9. Wow, we went up almost 3 years. We risked a bunch. We risked 50% greater to get you 3 more years. That really is not that great. That's not where we should be focusing on. So when you're listening to our podcast and we're focusing on those 5 core areas, cash flow being one of them, what is the major cash flow that we have? It's taxes. Our strategic partner that we have come on very often on the podcast showed me personally in 2018 how to reduce my taxes almost 40%. Imagine that if we could help you do that. Imagine if your tax bill would go down 40%. Look at the impact. You doubled how much money that you had in your account just by paying less in taxes. And we didn't increase the risk that we're taking on our savings dollars. This had twice a 50% increase over and above you trying to get more money in your market. Why would we want to ever put our money at risk if all we have to do is find better ways, more efficient ways? Well, another one of those cash flow things that we talk about on our podcast is debt service. I mean, this book is called Becoming Your Own Banker probably for a reason. What if through one of these strategies, we could take some of this money that we're saving in taxes in addition to our savings, that's 22%. That's really very common for our clients to be saving 20, 30, 40% of their money after they're using our strategies. What if that debt service could be reduced almost in half? We'll take it down to 18%. Now we're moving the needle. Now we're at 9.5 million. Now we're at a place where we're getting out there into that 18-year range. So if we were at 70, we're taking it out to 88. That's getting closer, right? It's not perfect, but we're getting much, much, much closer. Because then if we focus on that, we've covered cash flow. We started implementing these strategies with life insurance to where we're really capitalizing our money. We're becoming efficient with it. We're becoming our own banker. Now we're starting to look for passive income. We start taking this capital. Not only do we get rid of that debt service, but also then we start to look for things in and around our own businesses, within our own real estate opportunities, or within lending. And now, yeah, we can increase the rate of return, but if we do it within our knowledge levels, we don't have to increase our risk. Well, first, instead of trying to increase risk, let's focus on ways to be more efficient so that we have a greater max potential so that we get closer to our financial destination. I hope this was helpful to you. Look forward to seeing you in the next episode.